Hey, welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast with your host, Tracy Hayes. It is a guest like this is why I love podcasting. It's a type of show that I just truly enjoy doing. She has risen slowly and she's had trials and errors, and now she's really starting to get her groove. And I'm really excited to dig in because I think it's going to be a true lesson for all. Much like when I was in college, I had to learn how to learn. She's learned how to be a real estate agent, and that's what's really exciting about it. We're going to dig it out of her today. This amazing agent has learned to be successful through trials and tribulations. It did not happen overnight. I am so looking forward to learning more about her challenges, successes, and those who have made a difference in her career. She has been an agent for 7 years.
Yeah.
Based on her numbers about 18 months ago, something clicked. She had a good 2021, but most agents did, but she's even having a better 22, which is not exactly happening for everyone. She loves to surf. I look forward to her telling us about her recent trip halfway around the world. Let's welcome Heather with a feather in her cap, Perez-Hollis, to the show.
I love that.
I always like come up with some tricky line to see, make sure everyone's listening.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I'm glad you came by. And you know, when I was, I don't know where it was that I came upon. I'm always trolling social media. I know what it was. Whether it was the team at Engel Völkers was putting out, hey, you know, done $1 million or $2 million, because the last few months have been really good for you.
Really good.
So I'm like, oh, what's this Heather doing? So I can go in and look up the numbers, and I'm looking at your trend and what you've done in my system set up for the last year, and you're trending up.
Yes.
So I'm like, okay, she's an up and coming. Let's see what she's got to say.
Yeah.
So when we talked last week on the phone, or Monday I think it was, and you were telling me that I mean, everything just didn't come to you right away, or wasn't easy, and you've had to work through it. So I'm really through the podcast, like I'm really hoping we put that whole story together.
Yeah, I'm excited, and I hope that some people get some golden nuggets from this conversation.
Yeah. We talked about it earlier. You're a big surfer, and last week you posted that you had. Well, the word broke actually isn't the right word, because it didn't actually. The longboard bowed, you said.
Yes.
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 So how do they fix that?
So first I'll say that I would consider myself like on the lower end of like a mediocre surfer. Like I catch the wave, I go down the line, I'm not ripping and shredding. And my friend let me borrow her favorite board. And I took probably a little bit heavier of a wave that I should have, and it bowed in the middle. And if I would have paddled back out, I definitely would have broke her board. But thanks to Ding King, it's fixed, and she's got it back, and it's alive.
The longboard, you said took the wave. So because the wave was too big, the board, of course, now the front of the board's pushing down on the water. The back of the board's lifting up because the water's lifting it up. Is that what causes?
I really don't.
Even for someone that weighs 125 pounds?
I really don't know exactly what caused it, but it was a bigger day, an older board. So thankfully she gave me a lot of grace, but it's better. So
so the shop takes it in and they put it in like a press or something?
No, they do it all by hand. So
wow.
Yeah. So
that's something interesting.
Yeah, we got some good waves.
And should have some more with this hurricane off the shore here.
Yeah.
You said you planned your trip, went all the way to Maldives.
Yes.
You're back in basically the end of August. You guys got back right before Labor Day weekend. Tell us a little bit. Just, I mean, how long does it take to get there? Was that a choice just by random? Did you pick Maldives, or like, hey, this is one of our bucket list?
It's always been on my bucket list, and I really never thought that we would go there. But my boyfriend actually went on a bachelor trip to Puerto Rico, and their Airbnb host, he does boat charters for surfing in the Maldives. So we planned that with that guide, and it was an amazing trip. It's 30 hours of travel. Wow. It's tough.
Were your feet swollen when you got?
So my feet do get swollen, but I found on Amazon this little swing that you can connect, and then I wore the compression socks. So, and I made sure that I was walking back and forth and pacing and hydrating and drinking those electrolytes.
While you're flying, as much as possible.
As much as possible. Yeah, I was definitely like the weird girl walking down the aisles back and forth and like stretching.
Oh, No one asked you for a drink or anything when you went by?
No. Yeah, but it was an amazing trip. Definitely would go back. Beautiful place, beautiful people.
You had some great shots. Obviously, the huts on the water. Is that very common there?
Yeah, and it's so dreamy. Oh, it's so worth it to have that overwater bungalow.
Is the weather fairly constant there, or do they have seasons?
So we, our first 4 days were perfect, not a cloud in the sky, and then our following 10 days were super rainy and windy. But that happens. But still, you're in a beautiful place, and I really don't know. From what I've heard of the Maldives now, 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago, perfect weather, and now it might be changing a little bit.
Interesting.
Yeah.
30 hours. So I've told the story here on the podcast. My wife and I, for our honeymoon, we got married in Miami, took everyone on a 3-day cruise on, I think it was Royal Caribbean. And then we got back to Miami. Well, then we go on our honeymoon and we flew from Miami to LA to Tahiti. Oh. And and the feet swelling and that's a lot of airtime.
That's a lot of airtime.
Where are you from?
I'm born and raised here in Jacksonville.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Born in Jacksonville Beach and then raised in Atlantic Beach. So beach girl.
So where'd you go to high school?
Fletcher.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Yeah.
Fletcher Sandalwood Friday night.
Oh.
I will be I will be officiating on the sideline on the Sandalwood side on Friday night. But yeah, big football game on Friday night there. So what was you're growing up here, you're going to Fletcher. I mean, what are your thoughts of what you want to do as a career? I mean,
yeah, so early on, I always knew that I wanted to be in sales, and kind of figuring out where I would go with that. And I think that I had a boyfriend in my teenage years, and I brought his mom over to my parents' house. She's like, "You should be a realtor." And I was like, I should be. So I always knew that I was either going to go into sales. I was thinking maybe medical devices. Then it really came down to, I'm a big people person. So I was like, should I be a party planner? And ultimately just meant to be a realtor. You had
several jobs on your LinkedIn that you've kind of tinkered around with. A look like. I think the last one was you were still, because it was the years. I was looking at the years that you had gone in, and you had overlapped. One was the alarm
ADT.
ADT, not ADP, ADT. Working there was because when you initially started your real estate career, was it pretty much part-time, or what were your thoughts? What was going on? Tell the story.
So I was still in college when I got into real estate, and when I went to my family and I said, hey, I want to go into sales and I want to be a real estate agent. And they said, okay, well, why don't you go have coffee with our agent? And I said, awesome. So I went and met with her, and she's still a mentor to me to this day. And she is originally from South Africa. So when I met her in person, her elegance, the way that she carried herself, luxury leader in her market at the time. And we had that conversation. She's like, are you okay working when your friends aren't working? Are you okay working on the weekends? And I was just so enamored with how she carried herself.
Because you were how old at this point?
Early 20s.
Early 20s. Okay.
Yeah. So, I was like, I want to be her when I grow up. And she helped me get hired with the brokerage at that time, because they were not hiring part-time agents, but I was still in school. But she told me, and I think on your podcast, I've heard a few agents say it, like, this is a long-term career. Yeah. It's not going to happen overnight for anybody. There's probably a small percentage that it does, but you have to build those relationships, and that doesn't happen, overnight. She said, start now while you're still in school, and, work your way up. And I did that.
I think there's a, especially for someone in their young 20s to mid 20s, especially, I've had several in superstars 30 or less, or right around that 30. Corey, for example,
exactly, yeah.
Is one of those. Jordan Ferrer over in Orange Park. Come on, Ella Woods with Momentum Realty. They definitely got hooked up with the right people at the right time, had the aptitude to learn. I think there is a maturity level that you have to have, because obviously, for the most part, when you're 25, 99.9% of the people you're going to be working with are going to be older with you, if not oftentimes twice to 3 times your age. And so you've got to carry yourself well. So there's just that, a characteristic there. But then even, I mean, I think I think everyone would agree, we know our financial literacy in the high schools and even in the colleges is not there. And we need to spend more time explaining to people like, hey, this is what a mortgage is. This is what a credit card is. These are how these things work. And so you come out into the field and, like you heard me taking an application earlier, and I'm talking to somebody, I guarantee the average 23-year-old, the questions I'm asking that gentleman when talking about his application was, you're like, why are you asking him that? Or you have no place to put it.
Exactly.
And no place to stick it on the wall. So there is that maturity level, but I think the stereotypical real estate agent is that older person, and that's changed now. In your even probably the generation slightly before you. You're starting younger, and you are seeing it as a career. Yeah. And by the time you are 30, you are doing very well because you've made those.
Yeah, and it came down to a point too where, it's like I knew obviously I'm younger. My clients are going to know that I'm younger. So I know I'm young, but I'm hungry, and I will not stop until I get you what you want. So one of my mantras has been persistence is key. Keep going, keep pushing.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. There's days that and I'm sure you've woken up and gone, man, do I want to do this today, or should I just go find a job at the bank or something, whatever. Yeah. Trust me, it goes through, and you have to keep pushing on. Have you ever thought about making your theme as the surfing agent? Not that you're the only surfing agent. No. Imagine there's others that do like to surf, but make that your...
I could find that as my new niche, but I think I'd have to improve my surfing skill just a little.
No, not required.
Not required.
Not required. Not required. I think, I've said, no, there's other agents that surf. We had the newcomer, Sadie and Luke on. They're down in St. Augustine Beach. But I mentioned Ella Woods earlier. She was actually a college golfer.
Oh, cool.
So it's like, why don't you make your specialty that you're the golf course guru of, Northeast Florida? Because what a lot of these northern people want to do. Yeah. They want to either have a pool or be at the beach or be on the golf course, right? That's the ideal situation. Why not be, that's what I would sell myself as. Yeah. That would be your brand. That would just, then we can start making surfboards and then you just see you on the beach and just put,
call me for all your real estate needs.
Yeah, Heather's home team on the surfboard and just stick on the beach. And
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
I think that I would just go with that. That would be you could do a lot of TikTok videos and stuff with that. But so you, if I'm not mistaken, it was a UNF. You went to UNF and you majored in communications and PR. Yep. Which I think is a super, not that being a real estate agent was kind of like in your mind of why you chose that. Yeah. But isn't that what we do?
Exactly. That's exactly what we do. And I went with that mindset of, hey, I know that I'm not going to go into the traditional PR degree. I'm not going to be writing press releases, but I am going to go into real estate. And it has been very helpful.
What are some of the, just some things there, I think today, knowing what you know, knowing what you were taught, if you were to go back there and just tweak it a little bit, or teach a communications and PR class for real estate agents, what are some of the things that maybe you would do?
Oh, well, now I've heard over at UNF, if you are getting a PR degree, they are teaching, there's a college course on Canva. And I'm like, man, I missed out on that one because that's, they're wizards. So I would probably do something like that, and changing algorithms and things with real estate. So if I could teach a course to, and I think UNF has a real estate course.
Yes, I do know some people have taken it. I mean, so the social media, when you're using Canva, because that's a lot of your, stuff that you're developing to post online, and so forth. And then we know all the top agents that have been on the show, social media is part of their game. Some are better than others, but it's a constant part of it. And as they grow and become more successful, a lot of them are either outsourcing it to someone that's really good at it, or hiring somebody to do it in their office with them. All right. We talked about a few things you do post college. You start Berkshire Hathaway's where you lead there.
Yep.
You're working part time.
Yep.
Tell me some of the what are you grabbing from them?
Yeah.
What is the schedule of a part-time agent at 24 years old or whatever you were at the time?
So really what I did is at that time, Berkshire Hathaway had a sign-in sheet. So whoever signed in first would get the first floor call or the first walk-in. So for me, knowing that, hey, I don't know many of my friends that are going to be buying a house right now. We're still like all in school. I was the first one in the office and I signed my name in and I would just sit there, and I've got my first listing. I got a couple buyers from those walk-ins and those leads. Also, the community and having other agents help me and learning from them. They've been in the business for 20, 30 years. I was picking their brains, calling them at 8 p.m. like, hey, I have a question. And thankfully they were answering. So I did a lot of training. I just did a deep dive of figuring out really the way that I learn is doing. So in real estate school, they'll teach you the contract, but when you actually go to write a contract as a newer agent, you're like, oh gosh,
what do I fill out first?
Yeah.
So let's dig into education here, because it's a common theme. I've told everyone I'm going to write a book. One part of it in the common theme is education. So you're a young person, you're trying to get a grasp of the business at this time. We know, just looking back, it wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
But if you're talking to that new agent, someone, someone who's following in your footsteps, just coming out of UNF and so forth and getting into the business, would you increase your education knowing what you know now? Because now you knew a lot of the education sources, because I imagine as a young person, you don't know all the places to go, and is everyone telling you where to go, whether it's the board or whether it's a lender sponsoring a class or another type of thing? How important is education, and could you have done it better or done more of it at the time?
If I could go back, I probably would have done it the exact same. At the time, the brokerage was offering ninja coaching, and that was a week course, and I ended up taking that course twice. And because I just got so many golden nuggets from it, and I'm like, I know if I do this again, and I started implementing that. I took things from Tom Ferry. Someone would have an Audible, and I would listen to that and borrow that information from them and go from there, and kind of mimicking. And again, the way that I learn is by doing. So holding as many open houses and getting as much practice as I could, finding an accountability partner and practicing those scripts and going through it. So I think I would have done the education the exact same. Ninja was I still do. I'm in a Ninja mastery class, and it's about 15 agents nationwide, and we meet every 2 weeks, and that just holds, you have an accountability partner in the group. So I think that there's a lot of real estate coaching out there. Find what you connect with and take the course 2 times, 3 times, because you won't hear certain things.
Right.
You can only soak up so much information. So again, just keep on doing the coaching. But if you don't relate to it, move on.
Well, it goes back to what you said earlier. You've got to ramp up, and you got to put the reps in, right?
Yeah.
You got to do that type of thing. That maybe the class, you take it initially when you first started, but there's information in there. You take a couple nuggets actually are relevant to you at that time, but then now 3, 4, or 5 years later, you take the class, virtually the same information, but it's now means something different to you. Now there's other things they're talking about that you actually go, oh, yeah, I remember you talking about that 5 years ago, but I had no clue where to put it.
Yeah.
Now because of where you're at in your career. We were talking. The great Melissa Ricks posted something the other day about don't think as other agents as competition. It's a very common theme. I'm sure at Engels and Volkers, because you got a lot of great people in Corey's offices. And you got to be collaborators, and everyone is at a different part of their career
Mm-hmm.
based on their experience.
Exactly.
I'm sure you're sitting around agents that are closer to my age, and you're like, wow, I can't, I want to be successful like them, but they've only been in it 5 years too, but they're actually at a different time in their life.
Exactly.
And the things that just came to them a little quicker because they had 20 years ahead of you of life experience, and then putting it in. You just, whatever that combination is, there's no set thing.
But even if someone, my age, you can take from that. And when I first started, I made sure that, obviously you have either a group Facebook or you have a group email. Hey, does anybody want to hold an open house? Hey, can someone help me with this showing? I was always the first one. Yes, I will help you. Yes, I will help you.
Yep.
Because I knew that it was going to come across one day that I had a question, and I was going to reach out to that person because I've held 5 open houses for them. So now they kind of have to help me. And I wanted to learn. So I knew that being that front facing and helpful agent, I would be learning from them. They're going to tell me how they want their open house run.
They're running this podcast hypothetically at UNF right now in a career setting, like people, whatever they want to do as a career. My personal bias is that, like you said, while you're young, put the time in.
Mm-hmm.
One of the trying to remember, there was something I saw, again, all these memes on social media pop in my head. Are you the person that wants the dollar now, or you're willing to wait till this afternoon and get $2, right?
Yeah.
Or are you willing to go out and get that job now, or do you start the real estate career, which may blossom for you quickly?
Yeah, it could, totally.
Or maybe it takes 5 years, and all of a sudden now you're in your groove and you're on this nice rise that you're coming. You put the time in and got the reps.
Yeah.
As a young person, so you had to sacrifice. You put your time in as a apprentice, basically, because that's what you were talking about. And so if you're talking to that addressing, or they're listening to this podcast, whether it's tomorrow or a year from now, what would you say to those young people about what real estate has done for you and your growth? Are you still sub 30?
Yeah, I'm 30.
You're 30. Yeah. Okay, I'm right on. Okay. So for that sub 30 class that's coming up, and why they should consider real estate if that's something they're interested in.
Real estate is the most rewarding career out there, and you get the flexibility of life, and you still can have that quality of life. And why real estate? One, it's again super rewarding. So that's what I would say to those UNF students that were interested. It's hard, for me. It took me 8.5 months to get my first sale, and I hit a wall at 6 months, and I said, "What am I doing? What am I doing?" And don't come for me, experienced agents. I paid for Zillow at that time, so I was like, you know what, this is the only way. And at that time, Zillow is like crazy expensive now, but I think it was like $450 for one zip code, and I was like, done, I'm gonna do it. And that paid off, and because I didn't have that pipeline. And one thing for me is, a newer agent, and I'm still this way, like, get back to your clients right away, like, be there when they call you, because that opportunity will find someone else.
There are thousands of agents out there would love the call. You gotta return it. So at least somebody pick up the phone.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily. This is one thing I've learned in the loan officer world. There's a lot of loan officers out there that think they got to be the one that answers the phone.
Yeah.
Trust me, you do not have to be the one answer. Now, there are some agents that will ask me, "Oh, when I call in and do an application, are you going to be doing it?" Because they know my experience I can carry on versus someone new. I can completely understand. But when that deal's in process, or even someone just calling and trying to get an appointment with you to go look at a house, just that someone answers the phone. So if you're unable, you've got to forward that line to someone that is going to respond, or you're immediately going, "Hey, I'll call you back in 5. You're immediately getting back on, as we do now with text messaging. That, "Hey, I'm talking to another client on the other line.
Get back to you.
I wouldn't interrupt your call if I was talking to you, if someone called in, so I don't want to interrupt this one, but I will call you right back."
Absolutely.
You've got to.
I agree.
This age, it's now. People move forward. I want to just kind of circle around the education, because you were talking about you're in this mastermind group.
Yep.
do you have some favorite places that you like to, regularly check out? Whether do you check and see what NEFAR's, has this month for trainings, or, is there a podcast, Buffini or Tom Ferry or someone like that, that you're, that's your favorite, that you're always checking to see what they're talking about, and picking out what you want to, what do you like to learn from?
Yeah, so actually within our mastery class, our coach gives us, books to read and podcasts to listen to, so we can have those discussions. I'm kind of all over the board. Like, again, in Jacksonville, we're always driving, so I love Tom Ferry, I love Buffini, and listening to those guys, and I really love Glenda Baker. She's an Atlanta real estate agent, and she's a luxury specialist. And, that's my ultimate
goal. Does she do
goal.
a podcast, or
she's
like
big
webinars?
on TikTok and Instagram, and she's a big personality, and she has a lot of really good tips. So I follow her on Instagram, and I'll listen to her and her videos. And I think she's more guests. Like, I don't think she has her own podcast. But.
Okay, so she goes on like Instagram and gives just tips on Instagram.
Yeah, and she'll
this is how I do Instagram, or hey, here's the latest thing.
Or she'll say, she opens up a video with, I had this client, and she'll tell you, because every realtor will tell you now, every transaction you learn something. Doesn't matter how long you've been in the business. So she'll say, it's kind of like a war story. Like, hey, I went through this with this client, and you can learn from her experience too.
Well, that brings up an interesting tip that I think is very important. I want your honest opinion.
Yeah.
Don't because
I'm a straight shooter. I'll be honest.
I will tell you that if I've had, this is episode 93, if I've had 86, 87 agents on there, all 87 would agree with me, but you may be the one who disagrees. Because, not that you're the only millennial I've ever had on the show. How important is it to show up, to come into the office and hear what you just talked about? Where you watch this lady on Instagram talk about some of her transactions, how important is it to go and hear in the office of the other agents that are making stuff happen?
I'm not going to disagree with you.
You're not going to disagree
100%.
with me. Smart answer.
Yeah, and
Heather.
I was the first person in the office when I first started to get in that sign-in sheet. And when someone would beat me to the office, I would be like, oh man, yeah. And the office opened at 9, so I would get there at 8:30. I would make sure that my name was first on the list, but also not wearing my AirPods and listening to the conversations, because you can learn. Someone may be on the phone with a super difficult client, and you can pick up on those little cues and figure out how to talk to people. And in the beginning, since I was younger, it was like, hey, I'm faking it till I make it, and I'm going to say what I heard, and it's going to sound great.
I'm not a agreeer with the fake it to make it thing. Although we often do that, because I don't know, some of the top people say, no, you don't want to do that. But I think they're really talking about true fakers.
No, keep it authentic.
You were doing the first, 28 minutes of our podcast where we've been talking about is you are getting the mental reps in. And that is where I see too many in on my side and the loan officer side. And the agents, I guess, is where you want to go, how far you want to get there. If this is going to be your career and you want to make X amount of dollars a year, and I imagine it's at least a six-figure dollar amount with hopefully a 2 or 3 in front of it. If that's the kind of money, solid money you want to make, you got to put your mental reps in. And this is what I really love about the young people that you're the 30 or less that I've had on the show, is every single one of you has that maturity of understanding that it's not my transactions, it's their transaction, but I'm going to listen in because I may learn something.
Oh, for sure.
And it's so invaluable. And I really think that today's a lot of people today are really missing out because they didn't have that attitude that you had.
Yeah,
like,
and I think
show up first to the office.
Be a yes person. When someone needs coverage, say yes. Like, it's going to come back. I remember when I was a newer agent, and I had, I think, 2 more experienced agents bring me in on deals just so I could assist them. They didn't have who there's plenty of other agents that could have asked, but because I was front facing and always saying yes and doing the open houses and doing the showing coverage, even if it's an inconvenience, you're still going to learn. You're still going to learn, and having that attitude of saying yes will always come back.
So this transitions a little bit into, you have the Heather's home team because you have another agent that you guys work off each other a little bit. She's ramping up because you talked about the quality of life.
For sure.
Now, obviously, most agents will, like you talk about, you want to pick up the phone when they call. It might be Sunday afternoon. Someone calls because buying a house doesn't just happen Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
Exactly.
It is oftentimes the weekends that you're doing stuff, but then you are doing well and you want to go spend almost 2 weeks in Maldives. You need some coverage.
For sure.
And it's important. So how do you structure, your day? Because what's the terminology you used earlier with me before the show? Your basically your work-life balance, but you didn't say it that way. What was your quality of life?
Big quality of life person. I do want to see and continue to travel the world. And Amber is the same. She was just in Iceland with her husband.
Oh, cool.
So it's really about just having each other's backs. And one thing that we like to structure is that for all of our clients, it's a continuity of care, right? So I'm not going to go to the Maldives and just throw Amber at, a client that they've never met. I've probably mentioned Amber a few times in conversations and saying, hey, just want to let you know, in about a week, I'm going to go out of town. Amber is fully up to line with the transaction. She'll be in my email. If you need anything, she'll be your direct point of contact. And she takes great care, just as she would for her own clients. So
give me that term one more time. Continuity.
Continuity of care.
Continuity of care.
Yeah, it's not just over when the real estate transaction is over.
That might be the title of our podcast. Continuity of care.
Continuity of care.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, and,
wow.
and there's one thing that I want to touch on for newer agents is get your buyer packet and your seller packets together today. Start practicing that. I have lines that I'll say to each and every client. For example, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I am in the business of setting expectations. Today, we're going to go through what we're going to go through. I don't say, hey, it's going to be rainbows and butterflies during this buyer process, especially the last 2 years. It's more of a roller coaster ride, but I am here to take that stress off of you. But it is going to be a team effort. So I think that, saying, hey, continuity of care, I'm here, Amber's here. Even when the real estate transaction is over, if you need us for any reason, we are here and we stay in touch.
So you mentioned earlier, I'm going to tail off that to stay in touch. You mentioned earlier that when you first started, you had your other friends that were the same age. You went to college together. Obviously, you grew up here.
Yep.
But they weren't necessarily, your ideal home buyers at that age. I'm sure a couple of them were trying to buy homes. Hopefully they bought homes then versus now. Yeah. But from the price standpoint. But how is that changed? We start to mold into a little bit of a marketing campaign because you are from here. Yeah. So what are you doing differently now? And obviously having the confidence and the experience and so forth to work your circle of influences.
Yeah, so I think when I first started, it was kind of like this fear of talking about real estate and like, oh, okay, well, I'm just starting. I don't want to throw it in people's faces. I don't want to be that salesy. And then once you step into it, it's really like, hey, yeah, you should be talking about it all the time, reaching out to your friends and family, reaching out to the people that you see on, maybe 2 times a year and say, hey, I'm in real estate. I just want to call and let you know, or seeing someone in the grocery store and wearing your name tag and doing all of those things. So, yeah.
I was just thinking of that, the name tag. You need to have a surfboard with your logo on it.
So I just ordered a new custom surfboard. And he said, do you want your real estate logo on it? And I said, yeah, I do. Yes.
Yeah. Who was it? I had on very recently, Missy, Katie Kampmeyer. I always get that. Missy, Katie Kampmeyer said she would sit at Starbucks, or not necessarily just a coffee shop. I don't know if it's Starbucks, have her laptop up. I guess I think it had a,
Ask me about real estate
or something
yeah.
about she's a real estate agent, I'm a realtor or whatever, and it started conversations, and which one rock turned over another. I can see you taking a break at the beach, you got your board in the sand, and I mean, people are gonna come up and talk to you about it, and because it becomes part of your life. How has real estate, because again, we're not 9 to 5, we don't check in at 9 and check out at 5. How do you mold it in? And you were talking about your boyfriend. You guys went to Maldives. Yeah. I mean, does he? I assume he accepts the way you do business. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be dating. Yeah. How does it? How do you make it as one? It is you.
Excellent question, and I definitely wanted to touch on this today. So my boyfriend owns a CrossFit gym, CrossFit Total Control, and blending into life. So he's in sales, even though he owns a gym, because he's got to sign up members, and becoming a part of a community, especially as a newer agent or even a seasoned agent that is kind of in a slump. We're going to CrossFit every day. CrossFit is hard. You are suffering alongside of people. You're top of mind.
Are you doing a lot of classes together? Because on a lot of CrossFit, you kind of get in little groups.
It's team classes. So, even if you don't want to do CrossFit, you can join F45, another gym, and start going at that same time consistently, because every single day, things happen to people. Sometimes people get a job promotion and they're super excited and they're going to be telling everyone at the gym, I got this job promotion. Oh my goodness, blah, blah, blah. Or you're going to see another side of somebody. They're going to have a bad day and they're not going to be talking to you. And you may go up to them and say, hey, are you okay? Real estate, as you know, it was a relationships business. So the more that you become a part of the community, the more that it's going to be easier to talk about, hey, today I sold the highest home that I've ever had, and they'll be so happy for you. And they'll remember that, maybe a year later, like, oh, I remember that, Heather's a realtor.
Now he has his gym. Does he have a real estate with your name on it listings?
I need to. There is a place for me to have a sign, and it has been on my to-do list. So calling myself out, some accountability here. Should send you a picture. Need to get Advantage signs to make me a sign outside his gym.
Well, you bring up a great point, and again, teach whether it's real estate, and again, the loan officers out there too. Yeah, you got to get out. Okay, you've got to meet people like. Today was the first time we've talked on the phone, but today was the first time we met face to face. So tomorrow we're going to an event together. Yeah. Now we've talked for an hour. We've seen each other. We know who we are. Now we can come up and just start a conversation or continue the conversation tomorrow. You got to get it started, and that's showing up to an event, showing up to the gym every day. You may see the same person in the gym for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then finally you get up to Gusto and say, "Hey, I know you're in here all the time with me. Hey, my name is Heather. What's yours?" Yeah. And then now you've taken the relationship up to another level, because now you know each other by name, and you're broken that ice barrier that a lot of people have. But as a real estate agent, as a loan officer, you've got to get that initial shield broken. Of ice, right?
No, for sure. Yeah. I totally agree.
Yeah. So the gym is a good spot. That's Ryan Serhant tells in his book where he joined multiple gyms just to run into people. That was his.
Again, it's community, and even if you don't want to go to the gym, you can join a club. If you play a sport, there's ways to get out there, but making it consistent. Because the last 2 years, a big source of my business has been the gym, because I'm around those people every single day. It makes it easy. I'm top of mind, and I'm not talking about real estate every time I'm working out.
When you're just bringing all sorts of thoughts to my head. I should be a marketing director, but these are no-brainers. To me, if I was going to the gym, I would have Heather's home team tank top on or whatever you wear. I've seen your gym outfits on social media, whatever. I mean, that brings up conversation.
It does.
People see the shirt. Oh, are you Heather? Or, especially being female, guys are going to see are you Heather? Yeah. Because that's their way of breaking the ice in their subtle way, right? Talking to you. That they're seeing that all the time. Heather. So, or they're going to go to your boyfriend and go, hey, is that girl a real estate agent? That's type of thing. So wearing the proper strategic materials, whether it's a surfboard, whether it's a t-shirt when you're working out. Again, another way just to easily break the ice if people are seeing that consistently all the time. We all wear, our team, whether it's, I don't have my Lone Depot shirt on today, but, so a lot of times I'll wear that just because we're wearing the team. But going that consistent place, people are seeing it all the time. You weren't just wearing that shirt one day. That's actually your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would carry a gym bag too. Just go, might as well go all out.
Go all out.
Get you a pink gym bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go full blown.
Yeah. All right. So we talked about, Corey has a way of great way. I've talked to many agents been recruited by Corey, young and old. Some of the most senior agents you would never think would leave their brokerage, talk to Corey, and they're like, that's where I need to be.
Yeah.
What is it about Engel and Volker? And I would imagine that Corey has a lot to do with it. Because obviously I don't know any other Engel, although I'd like to get Jennifer Brindell that's down in St. Augustine on. She hasn't accepted my invitation yet, but hopefully maybe she listens to this. But what is it about the Jacksonville Engel and Volkers that you're like, yeah, I need to be there?
Great question. So I was definitely one of those that was like, hey, I am not going anywhere. But I will take the meeting because why not? I'm a yes person. So I need to live by that code that I hold myself to. And I was, so impressed with Corey, and you've met him, so I'm sure you had the same feeling. But really it was the tools that give time back to me. So my favorite thing about real estate is being front facing. I love doing the client drop bys. I love seeing my clients after they've moved in after 6 months. And I always write a thank you card at the end of the transaction. I say, P.S. I'm inviting myself over. I can't wait to see what you do. And the last 2 years, I haven't had time, because I have to do the marketing, I have to do the posts, I have to do the e-cards, I have to do the contracts, I have to show the property, and going crazy. And when I met,
because what's the word there? What's the word there? This is one of those themes again, like education.
Yeah.
Consistency.
Yeah. And I think when I met with Corey, there was things that I knew that I wanted, but I didn't know how. And he presented me with those solutions of, hey, you need to go out and sell. You need to go out and be 100% with your clients. You don't need to be worrying about a social media graphic. And I was like, I agree. Yes. So I would say tools were the main reason. Yeah. And being around the best of the best, again, because I am younger and I want to be around the agents that have been crushing it for 20, 30 years. I want to be like that.
As a 30-year-old, to be accepted into, I'm going to use the term, into Corey's club.
Yeah.
So we should get t-shirts made to say Corey's club.
We're getting a lot of
Corey's
t-shirt
club.
ideas.
Yeah. Corey's club. Because Engel and Volker doesn't take new green agents. No. You have to have a certain volume to be accepted into, because that's just their business model. And at 30 to be accepted in there, like you said, to have that room full of, the common term is, 5 successful people, but you even have more than that, that are around there. At any day of the week, you can walk into that office not knowing who's going to be there, but there is probably going to be a couple of successful people in that office that you can look up to and immediately, if you're having a bad day, that'll probably, give you a little shot and a little, pump up. And give you that energy. Because that's what I get from many of the people that I've had on the show. I tell people this is like it's like me reading a personal development book a couple times a week for a couple shows, because what I get from you and many other guests is just, it enlightens me. And some of it's not like something like total rockets, like I've never heard that before. It's just hearing it over and over again, hearing the consistency that you're just talking about. How important, other agents, and that they're not getting that kind of support. You are, I love the way you positioned yourself. You like the front end.
I do.
You like the customer interaction. You like taking that initial call, scheduling, going out, maybe evaluating what homes are best for them after doing a little interview with them and that, and doing that because that's where the money is made. The money is not made by posting the social media graphic, although many of us will sense that, hey, I need to do the social media graphic to get the call. But there are people who can sit there and post on social media for you all day long for pennies on the dollar, literally, where you're out there making I always like to call it the $500 an hour job. You want the $500 an hour job, so you want to spend as many hours a day doing the $500 hour job. Let the person doing the $25 an hour job do that.
Exactly.
And if they spend as much time doing that as you did that's a great return on investment, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And to the newer agents too, like we said, the consistency, but I have a buyer interview sheet that I would follow. And even when I was new, I might not remember the 7th question on the 2nd page, but I'm looking because I'm making notes, and I'll tell them, hey, I'm going to make notes and I'm going to put this in your file. So following that, and now my buyer and seller process is down, it's completely memorized now.
So you like to meet them face to face and do this interview that you're talking about?
And especially if it's an online lead or someone that I haven't met before, I will say that, being a woman in this business is, and I've learned, I'm so grateful for the women that are more experienced and smarter than I am, that have helped me along the way. But with the way that the world is today, no amount of money is worth my safety. So if I get an online lead, if they're not willing to meet me in person to have an initial conversation, they've at least got to text me their ID. And if they don't do that, find another agent.
Yeah.
So, but I do like, no matter if they are, repeat, if they've done 4 real estate transactions, but they've never worked with me, I want them to come in and I want to go over my process. And I say, hey, I'll take 30 minutes of your time and then we can go see houses. And that really has been a strong point in my real estate career. And I've gotten a lot of client feedback like, hey, we've never had an agent do it like you do.
All right. That is my phone, because I did not put it on silent.
Oh.
I am. Give me half a second here. This is why we get editors. Hold on. I can't believe I didn't do that.
It's okay. You had a weekend away.
Yeah. Okay. We were talking about the meeting, and one thing I like about, I think, is real estate's done so many different ways.
Yeah, so many different ways.
You got the EXPs, you got the Florida homes. They don't have offices. I mean, some of them have some small business offices, but they're not retail offices like you guys have at Engel Völkers. Exit's got retail offices.
Or do Zoom. I mean, with COVID, we all had to shift. I was doing plenty of buyer interviews or consultations, as I call them, through COVID on Zoom. And one thing too, being in Florida, another, newer agent tip is, hey, in our neighboring state, Georgia, sellers, do not have to pay the closing costs, or the sellers have to pay the closing costs, not the buyer. So having people from Atlanta, and they may be, I had a client, top executive, CEO, and when they purchased their house with me, and I still did the buyer process, and I said, hey, these are going to be your closing costs. They said, what do you mean? We've bought and sold 3-4 houses in Atlanta, and we had to pay the buyer's closing costs. What are you talking about? And that may have changed in the last couple of years, but even though they're experienced, they might not be from here, they're going to learn something from me. And, again, business is setting expectations. This is how the process is going to go. Let's see if we're going to work well together.
Well,
we get along? I
think one of the benefits of Engel, and talking to Corey on, you guys love your offices. Your offices are
amazing.
Are done to impress. And so to invite them in to do that into the home court, or I would even say, hey, I'd really like you to come by. I want you to meet my broker, and I want to do the initial consultation. We've got a great, space here, or however you want to describe it. I think that I agree with you, especially from any agent. This day and age, I mean, the stuff that goes on. Obviously, we watch too much social media, but it's in our mind from the safety standpoint, for sure. 100% right. And being out at Jack's Beach, it's not like being down in South St. John's County.
Yeah.
You got every character walking
Oh.
out.
Yeah. And it's not like, there's crime everywhere. But again, that's just something that I've chosen in my business. And I honestly don't get that much pushback. And if I've maybe had 2 or 3 people say, well, I'm not comfortable sending you my ID. And I said, well, I'll send you my ID if you want me to. And they're like, oh, well, okay. And I'm like, see, this is just, and I tell them, I said, hey, I'm a single woman in this business, and prior, safety is my prayer. I'm like, do you have a daughter? Would you want her to do the same thing? And I've had some gentlemen be like, actually, yeah, I totally get that. And I'm like, I appreciate it. It doesn't matter if I'm, in Nocatee, I'm still going to ask you for some identification.
That is really weird that someone would not. I mean, you go to drive a car.
Yeah.
Most of the car dealerships they're going to make a photocopy of your driver's license before the salespeople just get in the car.
New agent tip though, if you're going to ask one person, you've got to ask everybody. So even if
you should be asking everybody.
Don't just everybody. So even if it's my mom, like, Mom, I got to get a copy of your ID on file.
It's one of those things. Everyone should know where you're going. My wife is always hey, I've got a showing, and especially she's meeting a male by himself, not never met before.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to be here at 10 o'clock. Type of thing, and then you should be doing it. It should be a natural practice, and everyone should accept it.
What works for me may not work for everyone, but I found a lot of confidence in my buyer and seller process within my consultations, because you learn so much. We are here to solve a problem. Because I've heard this from, again, some other greats have been on the show, that we kind of got onto the subject of the consultation, but really that's where you build it. We talked about relationships earlier. Build that rapport.
That's really where you're building that relationship. One, with the immediate thing is that they don't just go and show up at the new construction site agent and they cut you out of the deal.
Yeah.
But you're actually building that relationship for post sale.
Absolutely.
Because it's not just that one customer. It's you built the relationship. You actually sat down and listened to them, which everyone wants to be heard, and you hopefully then narrowed down how many houses you're going to show them, instead of just going out there as a shotgun and just showing a bunch of houses. You actually talked to them and said, "Okay, well, we need to look at these houses then, based on what you told me." But it's actually that period of time, because when you think about it, especially last year, as fast as things were happening. If you didn't sit them down for 30 minutes or whatever and have that little meet and greet and talk about some things, it was like, make your offer accepted, boom, you're on the closing. Because after the offer's accepted, you meet them over maybe for the inspection, right? You go over for that. And then you're going to do the walkthrough. Those are the only 2 other scheduled times that you're actually face-to-face with them.
Yeah.
And these are people that you want to make advocates, which I'm sure you've learned from the older agents, that it's precious time.
For sure. And, making sure that you do the process and the consultation, because they're going to likely refer you to somebody if you do an excellent job, because they're going to tell their brother, their sister, their coworker. I learned so much from Heather. You've got to go talk to her, even though you're not ready right now.
Right. Well, being that resource of that consultation, being that you mentioned it, one of the first things you said here today was, I'm going to use the word concierge. You didn't say concierge, but being that resource of real estate. And some of the greats that I've had on the show, they want to be the resource. Matter of fact, it was the newcomers just on the last show. We're talking about how even when they recommend a restaurant, and they make sure they recommend, oh, you're going to be in St. Augustine, you should go here. You should go here. Because when those customers start doing what you're suggesting, you're starting to build a relationship. Absolutely. And then you have that follow-up. Oh, how did you like that meal? And and then the conversation continues. All right, we talked about education. I want to dig a little bit on consistency, just to kind of sum that up and close that subject out. What are some of the things that you do, like every day, every week, that you're just as much as you go to CrossFit?
Yeah.
What are you doing in your business consistency? And maybe not be perfect at it, but you're trying to be as consistent as possible. You feel has bared fruit and ramped you up here in the last 12 months, 18 months.
So staying top of mind, and writing thank you. Ninja will teach you to write thank you cards. or to say, hey, I'm thinking about you. I hope everything is well. How many times do you get a handwritten card from someone? That keeps you top of mind. Making calls. I do post on social. I'm not as good as I should be. I don't even have a TikTok. I need to get better. Maybe you're talking about hiring a marketing company. I'm like, I might need to do that. But, staying consistent and top of mind. In the last 2 years, honestly, I haven't been perfect at it. And now with the market changing a little bit, I'm really looking forward to doing that client facing. Before COVID, I was a co-founder of a women's marketing group. So that was, quarterly events for the community. And we kind of hope to get that back up and started. But again, just staying front facing, consistent, checking in. Ninja has a really easy to follow sheet of post closing. Okay, so it's 12 steps. The third step is check in 2 weeks later. How did moving go? Do they have any questions? Check in at month 3. How are things going? And it'll tell you what to ask.
Right.
And
well, as I think a lot of the agents, a lot of the CRMs and stuff will, if you put them in there correctly, but you got to put them in.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes, I think you're at the level now where you're starting to need that assistant to be doing that back end stuff, even if you're sharing that person with somebody, right? So that you're making sure it's inputted into the system that's outputting that too. You mentioned something here, which I think freezes a lot of people. You said basically that you were not perfect at it. You were not, but you keep moving forward. You don't have to do the perfect video. You don't have to take the now you're going to do you're the listing agent. Yes. You want to take perfect photos of the house you're doing. You have, that's your customer, but you yourself just being top of mind, using social media so people get to know you. You just got to do it, and you just got to keep moving forward.
And utilizing Facebook. All of my clients that I work with, I always add them on Facebook. Everyone is posting all of the time. Like it, comment. They're going to see that, and they're going to do the same for you.
Another, great. That's a tip I think everyone has in their back of mind. Not total rocket science. It's like, but you got to do it. Yeah. You talk to someone on the phone, troll them on Facebook.
100%.
Friend them. Okay, because now they know you're thinking of them, even though you're not talking to them on the phone at that moment. Maybe while you're on the phone, maybe you're on your computer at the time and you're talking to them on the phone, and you can pull up Facebook and friend them while you're on there. But they now are seeing you. Yep. They're seeing you, out at the beach, surfing, whatever. You're seeing them. Maybe you didn't ask them what kind of dog they had.
Yeah. And also one thing, when you add a new client on Facebook and maybe you have 5 mutual friends. Oh, how do you know so-and-so? Oh, awesome. I've known them for years.
Oh, that's touch. Cool. That's clutch right there. Yeah. That's clutch. Because now when you mention that you have this mutual friend, and if it's actually, truly someone maybe they hang out with occasionally, or it's their cousin, right? In
small world.
Yeah. Now all of a sudden they're bound to you because you have a mutual. Yeah. Yo, that's clutch right there. I like that. We talked about showing up. Besides just showing up to the Engels and Volkers office, what are you doing anything again to hang out or be around or listen to? Because I think when we say surround yourself by 5 successful people, it doesn't mean literally like necessarily in the same room. Yeah. It could be who you're listening to. Yeah. Who are some of the I know you've mentioned some of them already, but who are some of the people you're regularly listening to, or if they're having an event, you would go to it?
Gosh, that's a great question. I haven't been as front facing, honestly, with going to events. And I recently went to Built Right home inspections last week for a contract class and new inspections. But with, traveling this year and how crazy busy it's been, that's definitely on my list to do better. But I think my biggest thing is I don't want to be in the room and be the smartest person in the room. So great agents, like,
occasionally you can be.
Yeah.
Occasionally
you can be. But being, and I'm
because you got to help others. Yeah. So someone's coming there for you.
And I would say, for newer agents that are around my age, like turning 30, this has been like the greatest year for my own personal development. Who do I want to be? Is one of the questions, because in our 20s we think we know who we are and we've got it all figured out. But then as we get a little older, we're like, I don't have it figured out at all. So turning 30 and saying, okay, this is who I want to be. This is who I want to surround myself with. What is it going to take to get there? It's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take having to say no to some really fun things so you can really focus on your business. And I think that I was lucky enough with my previous brokerage and my current brokerage to be surrounded by really powerful, like boss babes. So that, like my mentor, she completely inspires me. And I have a few other clients that are top CEOs here in Jacksonville that I've been lucky enough to assist them in their real estate purchase. They're older than me. They're more experienced than me. They value me 150%.
Yeah.
They've never made me feel less than just because they're the top CEOs at a company, and they've been, absolute professionals for the last 30 years. So I think that I always ask people that are smarter than me, like, hey, what is one thing that if you would teach, what would you tell me? What can I learn from you? And I think it's super important at this age to be open.
Now that's kind of like, what can I learn from what can I learn from you?
Yeah.
Maybe sound a little odd to the average person.
Yeah.
But a really, truly mature, deep thinker, someone who has stuff to share with you.
Yeah.
That's not a question that they should be like, why'd you ask that?
Yeah. No.
That's a question they're going to be like, I appreciate you asking that question.
Yeah.
Let me, and then you start digging into some of the things they've done. So maybe some things they're not even thinking about at the moment, but now that you ask the question, they're going, oh, and now they're sharing. All right, this is really deep stuff right here. What you're talking about.
I'm super deep.
Oh, you're super. Okay.
I am.
So 30 years old,
Yep.
you mentioned these successful men and women that are probably, 20 plus years older than you, and how knowing that they are influencers in their area, and obviously you would like to tap into their circle of influence. How do you I don't know what the word is, how do you work that client? How do you stay after you've done that transaction with them, and maybe they didn't even think about the real estate, maybe somehow you just Heather, you were the listing agent, whatever it was, someone you got there, but they didn't really do any deep research, but now you've got them because they were your customer. So now you have an somewhat open communication line. How do you work that? How do you be top of mind with that person?
It's really interesting that you say that, because these CEOs that I've been mentioning, I got a call from him. And he was like, hey, you're on my list today to call. I've got 5 people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, he's got a CRM. He's calling me to check in on how I'm doing. I need to be calling in and checking in on him. And for me, I'm a big people person. I think that part of my personality, I know how to read the room, and that's credited to, my success that I've had and becoming a part of their lives. Like I've had, clients invite me to their weddings and being a part of their family. And, that's why I say earlier when you asked, it's such a rewarding career because you end up with forever friends. And, in this business, you've got to want to be a people person.
Right.
You really do.
So it really, don't be intimidated by those people. They did business with you. And whether I think one of the things that loan officers and real estate agents, stuff happens in our business. Not every transaction runs smoothly. Actually, very rarely they ever run perfectly smooth. But don't think that not after the transaction that buyer or seller is relieved. It's over, but that they don't like. I mean, until they tell you they don't like you, you should be continuing to stay in touch. Don't be intimidated because they're the CEO of JEA or whatever. If they've done business with you, continue because they know people. Ask for the referrals. Exactly. That's how they got to where they're at.
And one thing too, with these, top executives, you're going to run into them. You're going to do business with them. I will, if I am nervous because I know that they're really busy, I'll say, hey, I know you're really busy, but I would love to have a conversation because I want to learn from you about this. And they're like, I would love to have a conversation with this. I'm not too busy for this conversation. Right. Being willing to learn, I think has been a strength. And I think you may have touched on it when you said you had Melissa Ricks on your podcast, that she said abundance. And I think that, Shonda, Tansy, Lee Elmore, these are top agents, and they all have that mindset of abundance is, we all have enough business. How can I help you? And I've been really lucky to make those relationships with those top agents, men and women that have that mindset. And I think that the more success that you have, the more that you see like, oh, there's plenty for everybody. And when, you know, hey, how did you do this? Or, hey, what photographer did you use on those listing photos? Because I want to call them. And they're like, hey, here's the number. Like, they're not going to hide that from you.
No, they definitely want to be collaborators is the term they like to use. Not competition, collaborators, and you've got to make those connections. But I think don't be afraid wherever you're at. What's this phrase? Everyone puts their pants on the same way.
Exactly.
And the fact that the person's actually done business with you, they obviously like you. Trust me, they didn't have to choose you as a real estate agent.
Exactly.
They may have to choose a site agent in a new construction because that's the only person in the building. But when it comes to being a real estate agent and representing them and going around and looking at houses, they can choose anyone they want. So they're already telling you they like you. Stay in touch with those people consistently and continue to ask for the referral.
Yeah, and having the confidence to ask for the referral too is so important. And that follow up and making sure that you do a good job. So I always I have a few things that I'll say to my buyers and sellers, like, hey, I'm in the business of setting expectations. And the most important thing that I will say to every single client, this is not about me. This is about you. I want what is best for you.
Right.
You know, you're not bothering me at any time.
You don't have to live in that house afterwards.
No, like, exactly.
You're not the one that has to drive in the driveway every night.
I do have, you know, and it might be a younger clientele. They'll say, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm texting you right now. I know it's a Saturday. I'm like, hey, Friday is my Monday. Go ahead and reach out. So it's just establishing those expectations, because the 9 to 5 person may not know that they can reach out to you, you know, at any time. And that's part of the thing of learning to navigate as you get busier. Okay, is this imperative that I answer right now because they texted me at 9 p.m.? No, I can get back to them first thing in the morning. Right. And creating those boundaries, but also setting that expectation with a new first-time home buyer, like, hey, I work on the weekends. So like, oh, you do? What? I didn't know. You know, they don't know what they don't know.
I think this has been brought up on the show before. You have to set your parameters. Is a text message urgent? I mean, if someone texts, a lot of times I will send an email or a text message. Well, sometimes they're urgent. It depends on if I'm, you know, when I'm, sometimes it's like, just pick up the phone. But text message at 8:30 at night, you know, a question, when you look at it, go, okay, now if I answer this is going to make them sleep better. Okay, that might be somewhat urgent. But if it's just I often will do it as a text, almost like taking notes, as you put notes down, because I want to remember to do it later. So what I do is I send the message, and now I put the ball in your court. And then I just wait for the response. It might be tomorrow morning. I'm like, okay, type of thing. But yeah, you want to set those parameters, like, what is your level of communication? And I think it's important, obviously, to communicate on whatever level they have. I've said many times, I've done complete loans over Facebook instant message and text message without actually interact, because that's just the way they communicate.
Exactly.
People are like that.
You have to kind of mold to what they're, and again, in my consultation, I say, who is the main point of contact? Would you prefer I call you or I text you? Right. And they'll tell you, and you make that note. You ever run there
where like one says they're the main point of contact, but they're really not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Usually, if it's like a husband, wife, or partner situation, I will say, I'm going to do a group chat.
Yeah.
And in the last 2 years, it's been, hey, I know that you are working until 6:30 or 7 o'clock at night, but if this house lists at 1 p.m., we have to go. We can FaceTime you, but like, we're going to see it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of the way that I am in my business is I have, in multiple offer situations, I will call the listing agent and I will be a pest. I'll say, hey, I just want to let you know that we were the first people here. We were the first people to show it. Right, will you please tell your seller that we were the first to make the appointment? It matters. We won against 2 cash investors recently because we were the first to show it. I reached out at 8:30 in the morning, which is a little aggressive for poor listing agent. You know, she's probably just having her morning coffee, but I will continue to follow up, because again, when I'm presenting offers to my seller, I'll say, hey, I asked a question to this buyer's agent. I still haven't heard back, but this deal, just as good. She's been following up with me twice a day.
Well, this kind of comes to the summer. When I started the show, I wanted to hear, you know, we've talked about a lot of things.
Yeah.
but if you're putting it on the scale of what's making the needle move for you, and why you're ramping up in volume in a year that the really good, really top agents are ramping up, some are leveling off, some have taken a couple steps backwards from compared to last year.
Yeah.
Which is not difficult to do. Last year being crazy, but that little tip right there, I have heard it numerous times from agents. Said they get offers and there's no call from the buyers. It's like that contract is supposed to say something, and you've got to get top of mind of that selling agent, or maybe the selling agent gives you some advice like, that's not even going to be close. You better go back.
Yeah, I'm like a dog on the bone. I'll be like, can you just, and I'll ask the questions, and there's some agents will sing like canaries. Others will be like, I can't tell you that. I'm like, hey, but I'm still going to ask you 3 times. And, I'll continue to ask. And if you tell me no, okay, I get it. Yeah. But if you tell me no once, I'm still going to come back. Yeah. So it's really being hungry and saying, I'm going to do this. And it was hard this last year for buyers. Yeah. And again, it's changed now. So
it's a little bit, so on, and that's the same thing for the loan officer side. We should be calling out to the listing agent. Now, a lot of times we don't know. You guys make an offer. We don't even know who the listing agent is. Yeah. But when we get that contract, to reach out.
I love that when others do that. Yeah, not everybody does it.
You've got to reach out and you don't tell details. I'll brag about a buyer or whatever, the borrower and sort of thing, but just to let them know that there's an open communication, because I did just got your offer accepted because you were doing the cheesing on that end. Now you got to okay, I know Heather thinks her buyer is the greatest, but are they really? Yeah. Then the loan officer's we've got to reach out and put that, make that call and just say, hey, I'm here. It's really a good buyer. We shouldn't have any problems. That I've seen their cash, and puts everybody in a little different ease, because obviously everyone's sweating it out till closing, right?
Oh, of course.
All right, we're gonna round down here.
Yeah.
And you probably have to think about this one a little bit.
Okay.
I hope. Well, not too deep. What do you think in 7 years? What was either your biggest mistake or just your biggest regret? Maybe you should have done it earlier. What do you think? Biggest mistake or biggest regret?
Oh, man. That's a really good one. Biggest regret, I don't really have any regrets. One thing, 2 of my biggest lessons have been for newer agents out there that are listening, start your CRM now. And I just this year hired a transaction coordinator. If that's going to be a kind of a regret, I wish I would have had a transaction coordinator last year. And for me being a little OCD, and I'm also a little ADD.
Many agents are.
I'm all over the place, and I wanted, for a newer agent, I don't think you need a transaction coordinator right away. You should be learning the contract dates. You should be sending the email so you're also learning. But if you're growing right now and you don't really know what to do, that transaction coordinator is so amazing. They're going to make you shine, look great. You've got to find the right transaction coordinator. But if I say my biggest regret, and I don't really have one, I will say that I was at a point in my real estate career that I was ready to throw in the towel. I'm like, hey, I tried this, and I was 2% away from quitting. I was there, and that was very recently. And I said, you know what? I just feel this in my core that this is going to work out. And and I'm super open. So I've been doing this for 7 years. It took me the first 2 years to make over 50 grand. It took me, another 2 years to make 75. It took me another 2 to be making 6 figures. And just the last 3.5 years, I have wanted in a 12-month span to sell $14 million in real estate. I don't want to look back at the 18 months, and I'm not knocking it if you do that. I want the annual. I know
my numbers say you did 15 million in the last 12.
Yeah, so my goal.
How accurate those are?
Yeah, no, they're right on. So my goal has been 14 million for the last year, and I have failed, and I failed, and I failed, and then just last month I hit that 15 million, and it still doesn't feel real to me because I have failed at doing that. And now I'm like, I've got to get a new goal. How exciting is that?
Well, when you, and now you're getting, now 20 is not that far away.
No.
5 to 10 was probably a big
Yeah.
big step. And then you get that 1450. Now 20 million is not that far away because now you're picking up pace. But I think you're that inspirational story, as we talked about on the phone, that there's a lot of agents and they get to that point where they want to quit. But the biggest regret you have was one of them was not hiring a transaction coordinator earlier. The third largest, the newcomer group, as far as my system tells me, in volume, is the newcomer group. And Sadie and Luke were on here last week. They said their number one regret was not hiring that assistant earlier. Yeah. Because you've got to let someone do the social media posts, let them, follow the appraiser, schedule the inspection or whatever, those things that are the $20-$25 an hour jobs, and you got to focus on the 500. That's why 15 to 20 isn't a big leap. Yeah. Because now you do have the transaction coordinator. Now you are focused front end. Yeah. You're waking up every day or planning out your week going, okay, I don't really have an appointment, but who can I get in front of that hopefully might create something 3 months from now or 2 months from now? Exactly. You're starting now to think the business out in advance. So that is excellent advice. It is the number one challenge not for real estate agents as well as loan officers. Yeah, because we have a lot of after that consultation, after the contract, after that loan is created and then submitted. There's a lot of administrative stuff that goes on, and there are people that love to do that. Yeah, we're front end people. Yep. We want to be out in front, and whether get the sale or create the relationship and go on to the next one. So. This one here, what makes Heather Perez-Hollis a unique real estate agent? Why someone listening to this, and we talked about this going out in my YouTube channel eventually, and someone might search it, and they watched all the way to the end of the show. Yeah. Why should they be working with Heather?
Why should they be working with me? I love it. So I am a native of Jacksonville, and I actually have found a niche market in specializing in out-of-town buyer tours. So again, that continuity of care. I will pick you up. I will make sure that we have a schedule. We'll take a look at 2 houses. I'll give us a lunch break. We'll, have a nice lunch somewhere.
You'll go surfing if that's what you want to do.
And it's just offering, like you said earlier, I have a restaurant list. I'm kind of a foodie, and I'll give that to people that aren't from here. And one thing is communication is key in setting those expectations. So why to work with me? I'm a native of this area. I know Jacksonville like the back of my hand, and I grew up here. So I can give you the local experience, and I really love, those out of state or out of city buyers that are coming. And
do they like, I think a lot of people like the history.
Oh, for sure.
How things came about to, especially at Jack's Beach, or what used to be there now it's here, that type of thing. I think people like that when they move into an area that the history of it is a little bit of the attractiveness. Yeah. But and I know you're doing your tours. There's a lifestyle here.
There is a lifestyle.
People move here for a lifestyle choice. They're not in the Ohio factory town anymore. Nope. They're coming in to Florida for a reason. Obviously, the sunshine. We can wear shorts pretty much all year round, as I try to do. But whether it's the beach or it's boating or you want to go hike trails, there's so many things.
You've got it all. And I think that, again, one thing with my business is that I'm like a dog on a bone. Like I will not stop. So again, persistence is key, and I will work my butt off until I get you what your results are. And I tell everyone, and I get really annoying with my clients, and I tell them, I say, I'm going to annoy you when I say this, but if it's meant to be, it will be. And I tell them all the time, and I will repeat it, especially in the last 2 years. Hey, okay, we just lost again in a multiple offer situation because the sellers decided to go with a cash investor. And I said, this wasn't meant to be, and when it's meant to be, it'll be. And they're like, you've told us that 10 times. I'm like, I'm going to keep telling you that.
Well, I've been doing this 17 years, and really didn't start digging into purchases. Was doing mostly refis till about 8, 9, 10 time period. And I have run across a situation where someone has lost the offer. Yeah. And then it's the next house that are like, oh my God, I'm
Yeah.
glad I didn't get that offer
Exactly.
because this is really the house I want.
Exactly.
And that's what it's totally meant to be.
Yeah.
I think you ought to do, I just think about what you were talking there in the lifestyle thing I haven't seen your business card, but
Yeah.
you should have a little caricature of you with the surfboard. Just
I
putting
like.
that
I
out
also
there.
like. I need to get some T-shirts made. I think that.
Yes.
I think that'd be really fun.
The surfer girl real estate agent. It's a hit. No one else is doing it. You have a corner in the market. All right. Besides surfing,
Yeah.
what is your favorite thing to do in Northeast Florida?
Ooh, that's a good one. So I live in Neptune Beach, and I grew up in Atlantic Beach. So I love all things related to the ocean. I love tennis. I was on the Queens Harbor League for a little bit now, and I loved going around the country clubs and playing. Not doing that right now. Business gotta work. But
It's CrossFit or play tennis.
Yeah, CrossFit or play tennis. Yeah. So again, I'm super active. So anything ocean related, and I love that we have an amazing fishery here too, and we're close to pretty much everything. If you want to do, you can really do whatever you want.
There is so many things to do.
Yeah,
But I'm gonna bless you with this. I think your business is going to continue to grow.
Thank you.
You're gonna have that full-time full-time assistant that you will be able to go whatever 1 day a week or 2 days a week and go play in those tennis tournaments.
I would really like to do
because
that.
I think that's another circle of influence.
It really is.
Hang out with the ladies and they're interacting with their circles, not non-tennis, and
and one more thing before we end, like within the CrossFit community, like I try to keep all of my business that I do within the people that I'm around all the time. So for example, if I want to go get a spa service done, I'm like, okay, which one of my Facebook friends does that? So keep the company.
I thought you were going to say they have to work out at the CrossFit.
Yeah, no. But like, who do I know that does this? I don't want to outsource and do the 1-800 number. I want to use someone that I know. So I think that's really important too.
Well, I'm going to answer the unique question. I think likability is why you do that. That's what you're talking about. You want to do business with people who you like and trust. Not saying it's just you don't know that person, so you don't know if you like and trust them yet. So you refer to like and trust, and your unique skill, although your work ethic, your vision has grown up on the business in 7 years, and how you sell Northeast Florida, I'm sure, is totally different than what it was 5 years ago. But your likability. And that's why I say you ought to do the surfer girl, because that's your thing. They don't even be surfer people. They're just like, oh, she's just a laid back surfer girl. She'd be cool to hang out with.
Love it. Teach you how to surf.
Exactly.
Buy a house.
All right, last question. This is the big question on every show. You ready for this?
Okay.
You already know the question? Do you? You listen to the end of every show. Is it more important who you know or what you know and why?
Ooh. Who you know or what you know? Man, relationship business, but also you want to know what you're doing. So that's a really hard one. Do people have to answer that?
Yes, it is required to answer before I can hit the go. But I will pretend to. I'll tell you what my belief is. I'm a who you know person and here's why. Yeah. You can't be a complete idiot.
No.
Okay. We're not saying, hey, you don't know anything about flying a plane, for example, and like you're gonna walk in and like I'll tell everyone here's a story. We're going over minutes, but here's a funny story. My wife and I are at Sandals for first year anniversary.
Oh, nice.
I haven't played in a while because I need, but we were playing tennis. I taught my wife, something we just casually did. So we're playing tennis with the pro out on the court at the Ocho Rios. And this guy walks up and he wanted to play. And she's like, okay, have you ever, do you play? And he goes, no, I only play on Wii. Right, the video game. Okay, all right. So that it doesn't. You don't
Red
have
flag.
to be that. Yeah, but I truly believe it's who you know. If you know enough to just look over there and go, man, that guy is really good. Or hey, Corey is one of the smartest brokers in town. Yeah. I want to eventually be a broker in my own office, or I just want to be a a top agent, and he knows tops agents. So I want to go, he's who you know that leads you to what you need to know. Yep. That's my belief.
And I agree. I would say it's who you know, but also, for example, with the CrossFit community, I've served, friends there, and they've bought houses with me and sold houses with me. But if I was a complete idiot with the first person at CrossFit, that's going to get around. Like, so you've got to still be good at what you know.
Well, true. So, someone gave you an at bat, and you've got to follow through.
Yeah. So I would say this relationship business, it's who you know. That's my answer.
Convinced her. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything you want to add before we close out?
No, that was great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. We went on. Yes, as
this might inspire me to start doing video. Who knows?
Yeah. Or there's a great agent down below here at Roundtable Realty below, Eric Jollis, and she has a blurred screen behind. It's like she does like almost like a Zoom where you can blur the background. Oh yeah. And she's like got a table in front of her, and she just talks about whatever subject for like, I don't know, a minute or two, whatever topic it is. I think they're great videos. Yeah. And some of them, she's silly in them and makes people laugh, because I really think emotions attracts people to remember you, right? Whether you make them smile or maybe you made them cry, but something, that reaction, puts a stamp on it. But appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. That was great.
Yep.